big problem of Crete is the sea, raised by the north winds, the heavy seas, beating the northern coast of Crete, where there are very few shelters. So the small ships of antiquity were seeking shelter in Dia or here in Psira, like Calypso, for example. And I can imagine dozens of ships, of antique ships, here in this bay, one near the other. And then suddenly, when the explosion of Santorini began, there was a tidal wave. And I can imagine this huge tidal wave, 330 feet high, coming here, sweeping clean all this peninsula, all the houses brushed clean into the sea, and sank all the ships at once. And I can imagine, I can dream of this catastrophe where all the Minoan ships, all the ships of antiquity were sunk all over the Mediterranean the same day by this tidal wave.
If indeed Minoan civilization was the original of Plato's Atlantis, then the answers to its sudden destruction may well lie 75 miles north of Crete, at the island sometimes known as Santorini, but more commonly called Thera. Here, once again, the helicopter lifts off to make the first reconnaissance. From the air, Thera today resembles the shards of a broken cup 10 miles across. The fragments are all that remain of a single island that erupted about 1450 BC in what is estimated to have been the loudest explosion ever heard on Earth. Around the caldera where once a mountain stood, the inner rim of cliffs reveal the successive layers of tephra, the volcanic pumice and ash deposited when more than 50 cubic miles of material were lifted into the air and carried across the entire East Mediterranean basin. From the shore, a path of long cement steps zigzags up the cliff for over a mile to the little town of Thera perched at the top. Waterless, dependent on rainfall trapped in cisterns or brought by ship, the Thera inhabitants raise little produce, are largely dependent upon the deposits left by the eruptions and earthquakes that still shake the island. From the layers of ash and pumice, shiploads of material were carried away in the 1860s for the building of the Suez Canal. Since classical times, the cliffs have even served as a kind of human rookery, where people have built dwellings and storerooms by scooping caves out of the pumice. At the center of the caldera, the Kameni Islands, the twin cones of a new volcano, have appeared since the immense earlier eruption. The first, Palea Kameni, in the 2nd century before Christ, the other, Nea Kameni, less than 400 years ago. Once again, the geologic cycle is in motion, building a new volcano which will explode in some new cataclysm, perhaps 10,000 years from now. Pocked with small craters, some filled with sulfur pools or simply gases, it is a landscape indifferent to man. From the deck of Calypso, the cindered shoreline of Nea Kameni appears grim and forbidding.
Il me semble que c'est intéressant que les plongeurs aillent un par un
With Falco and old associate Frederick Dumas, Cousteau outlines plans for an underwater survey at a depth of 60 to 120 feet along the north side of the island. The objective, to search for caves or fissures or indications of volcanic activity, as well as any possible signs of human artifacts.
Toute l'eau est resserrée vers la côte et peut-être ils vont voir là la sortie.
C'est là que je veux dire.
Le courant doit
C'est plutôt là.
plaquer les eaux vertes.
Que le chaleur et le courage d'aller à la pointe là-bas et faire revenir.
On va y aller.
Hein.
But the diving team finds no bottom, only the sheer face of a precipice that falls away and vanishes in the murky depths. Upon this steep wall, the divers find no evidence of archaeological remains of Atlantis or any other civilization. Only an austere and formidable environment that makes no concessions to human need. Here, a stream of bubbles is a silent omen that deep below the great sea-filled cavity, geologic forces are still in motion. Throughout the caldera, the depths, even near the shoreline, vary from 600 to 1,200 feet. Thus, great areas of the volcanic basin lie well beyond the range of the divers. To explore this previously impenetrable domain, Cousteau now readies the soucoupe for the journey. Equipped with lights and camera and its own self-contained environment, it is a small two-man world in which Cousteau and Falco will go down nearly 1,000 feet.
The hook from the hoist is removed. We are free. We begin our descent into the void once occupied by the fiery magma chamber, which would pulverize a mountain, scatter it over 200,000 square miles, obliterate cultures, and change forever the course of human history. Yet, life returns. As we sink into the barren depth, the darkness closes around us. Even our powerful lights find nothing but an impenetrable black emptiness. For a long instant, I feel that, like Dante, I am on a journey to hell.